Welcome to Power User with Crash Long Johns. That's me. So today's video is actually going to be part 6, surprise, for Novice Microsoft Forms. I just didn't feel that I did some justice in some sections, so I want to go over some more in the sharing and then also for metrics and then in settings. Let's get started and jump over to the computer. Now that we're at the computer, you'll see again that we're at our Microsoft Form home area. And let's dive into those extras I want to share with you. So let's go with our form branching, and let's go ahead and start with our share. And our send and collect responses, we got our only people in the organization can respond. You do have the other options if you have that available to you in your organization. And then we have our link, QR, embed, and email. So let's start with the link. So I'll show you how this kind of works. So we're going to go ahead and copy that link. And let's go to our HR home, and went ahead and I got me an MS Form web part on here and also an embed web part. So we're going to start with the MS Form. So if add from existing, it's going to ask me, hey, give me the web address. So we're going to paste that in because we got the link and then hit OK. And we're going to just only have this view as collect responses and hit OK. All right, there it is. I got it in my MS Form web part and that form's there. Don't mind things are already filled in. That won't be the case when it would load for your people to actually fill it in. It will be blank and they would submit it. Now we're going to jump over real quick because we're still doing the link. So I also want to show what that would look like in Teams. So here's Teams. It got me a channel. I'm going to go ahead and click add a web part. And I'm actually going to do website. And I'm going to give it a name, MS Form. And we're going to paste in the URL, and I'm going to skip posting to the channel and hit save. As you see here, it's going to load, and once it does, it would have it there. Right now, it just says don't have permissions because I'm actually under a different user right now. So let's go ahead and get that kind of minimized again. All right, so let's look at going back to our form branching. Now let's go ahead and get the embed. So I'm going to click on embed. I got my embed code, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Now if I go back to HR home, and let's scroll down here a little bit. Now I have my embed web part. We're going to hit add embed code. So we're going to go ahead and get this opened up. There it is. It's asking me for the embed code. I'm going to get that. It's going to resize to fit the page. Now you see it's a little more pretty. It's got the theme background and got the coloring and everything, so that way you can use that too. And here is again the form. Again, don't worry about it being like pre-filled. When you embed it, it's not going to be pre-filled. A client would actually have to fill it in. All right, so there's dealing with our send and collect and being able to share it by a link or embed, and you do have a QR code availability or send it through an email. Now, if I want to share as a template, what I can do is I can actually duplicate this particular form. Let's say I have something in that form. I built this form, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I could use that over again, and all those pieces, but maybe just name things differently as we go along. So I can go ahead and click get a link to duplicate, which now gives me a copy. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to get me a new tab, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that URL in. It gives me this, like duplicate this form to use as your own. I can hit duplicate. Now it's copied that. And if I go back to MS Forms, and I'm going to have to do a little refresh here. Home area, you see now I got a form branching copy. So now I can do whatever I want to with this copy, change things, re-update things as far as for the questions, but if the copy is exactly what I needed to have the same branching or whatever, then you can do that. So you can actually make copies. So the other thing that we're going to look at is the share to collaborate. Now this is kind of important because again, if you just created the form yourself and then you are the owner. So if you left the organization, then this form would actually be no longer active. So you want to make sure that you collaborate with somebody else, that you add them on as a co-owner so they can view and edit. So that way, in case that you left the organization, it would still be active. The other thing can be done is you can actually create an MS form in a team, and that one would actually be linked to the team, so that way if you left the organization, anybody that was a member of that team would still have access to it, and it would still continue to live. So just keep that in mind. So let's look and see what this looks like. So I get a link to view and edit. I'm going to have some choices. Again, depending on what your organization has preset, you might not see all of these, but I'm going to hit the specific people my organization can view and edit. Now I'm going to go ahead and type in Crash Jr. There's Crash Jr. He's been added, and now we know that he's got the view edit. So if I look at that, he's got view edit right there, and that's it. So now Crash Jr. actually can see this form also and do everything, but just can't really delete it just since he's not the owner. All right, so that's kind of a little bit on the share piece. So let's look at some other little bits here. So we're going to go back into the settings, and we already covered the settings in the previous video that we covered for settings for Novice Microsoft Forms, but I didn't quite touch on the multilingual. Multilingual, you're able to add another language. So you can actually pick another language. So like, for instance, I can pick Japanese and add that to it. So if all of a sudden I preview, it gives the option of being able to change that from English to Japanese. Now, there is a lot of information that changes to Japanese. The only thing is there are still some pieces that not sure if it is something that just Microsoft hasn't got to, but it just doesn't quite change everything into that Japanese language. So there are still some pieces that are actually in the language that was built in. So going back to English, so you can flip right back. And you can also go back into multilingual and completely take it out, so you can delete it out and it would just be only in English. The other thing is you do have a print form option. So let's say that you needed to be able to have on record, like, hey, exactly what was that form altogether. You can actually print the form so you can see everything that you had built in the form. And we'll wait for it to cycle back. There it goes. And then other than that, you're pretty much set for there. So now let's jump into the metrics. So if I look at the responses, and this is where your metrics are going to be. So in the responses, this is where all the results are going to be at. And nice thing, it gives a nice little visual. So we got like 5 responses, and you can see like how the breakdown is. Like, pick your meal. Like, okay, there's 2 breakfasts, 1 lunch, 2 suppers. What breakfast meals are there? There's 1 egg and cheese, 1 breakfast burrito. What drinks do we need for breakfast? Lunch meal, lunch drink, supper meal, supper drink. So it gives you that total. The other thing is you can also open an Excel, so that way you can save the results in Excel. And maybe you want to do some other stuff, like doing other pivot tables or whatever. And then you can also view the results. So you can exactly see who the submitter was. In this case, it's pretty much going to be me because I'm just the one that's been submitted, but you would see different people's names if you actually had their name being captured. If we look at our math quiz, and we're going to look at those responses, you'll see that we have the responses here of 1, the average score. You can see exactly, what was scored in there. You can review the answers. In this case, we don't have any that we actually had in our example that we had to grade, but as you remember in the previous video that I mentioned about that, is if you did pick one that you needed to grade, like say an open question, it would be in here that you would actually have to grade it versus it being auto-graded. Because we used all math, it was auto-graded. And so you'd have it here and you would actually need to actually score it and then submit it. So that way it would update. The other thing too is you can post score. So here we got the name of the person that submitted. In preview, it's been graded. So you could actually click that and post the score. So like once it was all done, you could check everybody and post the scores. So that gives you a little bit more on the metrics and also on the settings and share. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe so that we can keep up to date on future videos. Thank you for stopping by. Until next time, keep learning.